Guys, welcome back to the channel, SE from SNA's Orgonite Creations. Now, for my subs, for my normal viewers, this is going to be a little bit different, okay? So, I'll get into a story and about what we're doing here, and but a bit of a background on me. I used to be a beef boner, somewhat like a butcher. I never sold anything like that. I wouldn't be behind the counter selling people stuff. I was on like a main chain where beef would be levitated up and along a chain and would bone out, the carcasses. After they've been skinned and gutted and, down from the soil floor, we'd get it so it's fresh, tear the meat down in their large, appropriate cuts. And this is what I did for about 11 years, all right? So this is why there's an array of knives in here, right? And steels to keep them sharp. But if you're new here and you're just here for what I'm going to talk about here, what this channel is normally about is orgonite. So this is an orgonite piece, orgonite pendant, and a charge plate. Just give you an idea. But if you don't know what orgonite is, you can go ahead and just watch this channel, Google it, whatever. But we make some good stuff here, and you can go ahead and click the link below to our Etsy shop to buy some of our stuff. And there is many health benefits for this stuff, and there is a need, more of a demand for it, I guess, in this day and age. But now back to this. Now, these here are super old knives. I'll give you a closer look. You can tell by their wooden handle, and you can tell they've been around a bit. Now, I have put an edge on that. You can see that, right? From what was there. So this is one that I have not touched. Now, these here come from a next door neighbour. So he's an old gentleman. He's a nice bloke, but we got talking, and I mentioned that I was beef boning. I was a beef boner for quite a while, and he said he's got some old knives that he knows a little about boning, slicing, and he got me these ones here. I said I'll sharpen them up for him. So that's what I did. I did with this one here. I've done that one. That one was the worst one, so I started that one first. This one here was pretty bad, but I stilled it up and it actually come up all right, but I still might put a decent edge on it, okay? It looks like it's been grinded many times. It's a bit wonky. Let's see if we can get a different look on that. It'll come up. You can see if I move it like that, you can see the different angles in there and stuff. It's been beaten around. You can see the different grinds. I've tried to thin these blades out. Now I can tell you straight away that this steel, whatever this is made of, is much harder than what we use today. Alright, it's different steel. I don't know what's better because I've never used these in practice. But I know what these here are like. This is what I used to use. I did slicing for a little bit, so that's a slicing knife, like this one. And these are boning knives, okay? This is what you'd use up on the chain to tear down your carcasses, right? And get in all the joints, crack open the bones and snap them and tear the whole carcass down. You need a knife like that that's really pointy, alright? Now, I'm going to get into me actually sharpening one of these, okay? So I have not done this one, haven't put the edge on it, but I'm going to show you how I do that and what I use and what I used to use. So being in that environment, in that workforce there for 11 years, doing boning for that long, slicing, I know a bit about keeping a sharp knife, okay? So if you guys are still here and you're a sub, good on you, because this is different than, but who doesn't want to know about sharpening knives? Like, everyone's got kitchen knives. Sometimes they come with a steel in the block, and normally it's a rough, excuse my language, piece of shit, and it doesn't actually, it's really rough, and it's not won't ever get you a good edge. But steels don't sharpen your knife unless it's a diamond steel that actually rips away the metal. Steels don't generally sharpen your knives. What they do is they hone the edge, okay? So the idea is to have a good edge, a nice smooth edge, tapered down, right? And the idea is every now and then, whenever you use it, the very tip of that edge, if you can imagine, it burrs over and it eventually just wears away. This comes along and realigns those microscopic little metal fibers that are going along. It realigns it, bringing the edge back to its peak, okay? There is rougher steels. I'll go into these steels like this one here. Pitted steel, which I pit myself, so I made this steel myself, not the whole thing. It was longer. It was a 14-inch steel. I cut that off. I rounded the tip, yeah, I treated it. Basically, I grinded it right back, treated it, rubbed it back, sandpaper smooth. I treated it with a special substance that pitted it. If you can see there's little tiny like hole-like things in it. It's pitted very evenly. There's a specific way you got to do it. I know how to do it, and my God, that it makes your knife razor sharp. Okay, and this one here, it keeps your knife sharp, because on the boning chain, you don't need to stone your knives or anything like that to put a new edge on them. You just keep a steel to hone that edge and keep that edge on there and keep it razor sharp. Now this here is a polish. You can see what brown that is, F Dick, made in Germany. Now this is polish, okay? So in my understanding, it's polished chrome. It's hardened polished chrome, okay? So that's an additional. So what I used to use is a pitted steel and a polished steel. And what I did was, I had one side, I had this particular steel, I've got it out in the shed because it's, I should have showed you, but one side is normal, the polish, and the other side, I grinded off so it was pitted. So you had one side polished, one side pitted. Because when I steel my knife, you can steel it. There's many different ways to steel it, and the typical one you see is just people go hacking at it, and you do it each to their own. As long as you get those angles right, and you're steeling it higher than the angle of the edge that you've put on it. So I've put 30-degree edge on there, and you want to steel it like higher, say 35, 40, even 45 degrees, all right, to maintain this with a not so rough steel. Now, if you go ahead and hit any metal, bang and clang in the sink, or if we were boning beef, because we've got a mesh glove, we're holding a metal hook, and we've got a mesh apron. If we slip and stab our mesh or whatever, that's going to put a dull spot, a flat spot right in your knife. And then that's useless. That spot is not cutting. If you didn't do that, all you would need to require is probably a pitted steel and a polished steel, and that was it. That's all we needed. If you were good at your job and you knew how to do it and steel it right, that'll last you. One knife will last you all day. But if you go ahead and hit a table, a metal table, everything with stainless steel in there, as you can imagine in the factory, it's to keep clean, easy to clean, or hit your glove or hit anything like that. Then you'd need a rougher steel, something like this. Something like this here with grooves. It can help realign it even better. You can imagine with the big grooves and lines in there. And that can rip some metal off. But once again, you've got a diamond steel as well. But yeah, I typically only use 2 steels or 1 steel. I take 1 steel in, back in the day when I used to, so it's polished and pitted, and that's all I needed. All right. Now, we're going to get into some of the knives that I used to use, I guess. So this is a slicing knife. Now this here has never been sharpened. It's got a factory edge on it. If only it focused properly. But it's in the kitchen, and I use it for cutting up roast pork. I love cooking roast pork, and this is a perfect blade to just cut straight through it, right? So it's got, like I said, factory edge, but I do steel it regularly, right? So I've had this knife for years, and there's no need for me to grind it. By grinding it, I mean, you see this here? That there's not the edge right there. That's a grind that I put on the edge is smaller. You can see the little tiny edge there, little shine. But the grind, sorry for the camera guys, and it's not focusing, but the grind edge is there. Now that idea is to thin your blade out. Since this is new, this blade is already really thin. All right, you can see how thick that is there, but then this way here it's like really thin. All right, so as you wear your knife down, like these ones here are really thick and really hard. All right, so the thinner the blade, it's going to cut better. All right, there's less drag. Speaking of drag, these here, so I've got a little tiny grind on there, then I've got the edge on there. You can see a little tiny edge. Shoot at the camera, but you can see a little tiny edge. I've got a grind there. You can probably see it more on the tip. And then they come with these hollow grind sort of things. You can see those gashes in there going up, the little rounded bits all through there. That there also helps cut back the drag, okay? So it slices back, it slices better, it goes through stuff, creates little air pockets so the meat doesn't stick to the blade, because when it's a flat surface, it likes to stick. Like if you try to cut solid block of cheese with this, although it's sharp, razor sharp, it'll get stuck because the cheese is like stuck on the blade itself, creating drag, okay? Yeah, and just another knife that we use, okay? Doesn't matter, they're all the same. You choose whatever when you're there. What I'm going to do is sharpen this, but I'll see how sharp these knives are, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, just bear with me for a sec. Alright, so what I'm going to do, piece of paper, now this is a notepad, so this is really thin. So the thinner the better, because for a knife test anyway. So, you know, a normal A4 computer paper is thicker than this. Alright, so this is really thin. Now, this is a knife that I got from the neighbour that I actually sharpened and put an edge on. And to be fair, it took me a little bit longer than I thought, and I could have done a better job. But I relied on my steeling techniques to bring it up basically better. So what I'm going to do is just show you how sharp it is, okay? So this is, yeah. Alright, so it's pretty good. Now this one here, that I have not sharpened, which I'll show you how to sharpen it in a second, how I do it. But this one here, it was useless to start with, but it's obviously been kept better because when I steeled it, it come back to life, okay, which is what you want, which is good. This one here that I just showed you with the cut in the paper, it's razor sharp, as you can see, but that had no chance. I steeled it, I put it on diamond steel and went through the other steels, like my rough one, the pitted steel and my polish, and it did nothing, all right? It was absolutely useless. So, look at this. See that? There's a bit of a drag there. So that's why it tore, because it got stuck on the blade because it's not very, it's a bit bitey somewhere. It's a bit grabby. See, it's not the best, okay? So you can see that, right? This one here, my roast pork knife that I've never actually sharpened, I've only steeled it, so it's just got a factory edge on it. It's pretty good. So if you know what you're doing, steeling your knife, and you know, it does take practice, but you know, it's really good, okay? These ones here I've used around the house, all right? So like I said, I've been out of practice I was boning beef for 11 years, but I have not worked there for probably about 10 years off, you know what I mean? So I'm well out of practice, but you never forget your tools of your trade and how to use them, okay, when you do something for that long. But this has been knocking around the house, haven't sharpened it for years. All that time, I just steal it every now and then. I cut things like rope and whatever, cardboard, whatever I need to cut up. Foam, there was foam I was cutting. So, but like I was saying, like it's not the best. Like I can feel it, it's a little bit resisting. It's still, see, it's like, you know, it's better than old mate's knife here next door. But yeah, I use this often enough. Like I said, it cuts through everything. Now I'm gonna leave this mess, but what we're gonna do is take it outside. I'm gonna show you how I actually sharpen this up, and after that we're gonna make a sheath. So I think that's what I call them. So because the old fella he's David, and his name's David. Because of David, you know, he's an elderly man. Like I don't want to put him down or anything like that. But just in case he doesn't understand what I'm doing here, I'm not going to show him this video, but I'm going to sheath it so it's protected. Okay, so it's going to live in a little cardboard thing. All it is cardboard. It's folded over both sides. So if you slide the blade in, it's not going to slide out one side and cut yourself. And that's all it is going to live in there. Okay, so because I like. Because I like, where is it? This is my one for the slicing knife, okay? So you keep them sheathed just for protection for yourself. And yeah, you want to do that. So we're going to go ahead and make that now. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to show you how I do this, okay?